We are finally live. My gosh. That took forever. We are finally here. Okay, cool. Hey guys, I am literally in Houston. Just got off the plane. Hair looked like a hot mess, looked like a mess. It is not even that clear in here anyway. So you didn't come here to look at me, you came here to hear what I have to say. So, long story short, we are going to go over some DMs that came from IG. I've been receiving a lot of messages on IG, even more so towards the holidays, which that's totally fine. That's cool. Just going to take my time and answer these questions um, the best I can and as often as I can. And however specific these questions get, we're just going to go ahead and just jump in. I will say before we go any further, I gotta show like where we are because it's so pretty. I'm gonna make a vlog. I've already have a lot of content. I just gotta edit it. So we are in the Post Oak. So this is kind of what it looks like right here. Really pretty, beautiful. We are in Houston, as I already said. Obviously, you can see other places. I'm in the library right now. So in the library has some like cool stuff here. It's nice and soundproof, I will say. If I say that, meaning like I can get some work done, I can actually talk to you guys. So we're kind of like gonna dive in here with some of these questions. So taking out my phone so I can keep up to, like on track. So here we go. This came from my IG. Thank you for sending these messages. First question. Okay. What is the optimal plan after graduating PT school if becoming a sports physical therapist is your goal? So this is a really great question. I get a lot of these questions, maybe worded in different ways, but long story short, hey, I go to PT school. I'm gonna go to, become a physical therapist, but how do I become a sports physical therapist? How do I actually work in professional sports? Or in this question, really just a sports physical therapist. So we'll start with the sports physical therapist part. Being a sports physical therapist is a term that a lot of people use, and it's no discredit to them. It's just something that you say that you can work with athletes, and any kind of athlete, unless you specifically say, I went to work in professional sports, high school sports, or just sports in general, your weekend warriors, all that good stuff. So with sports physical therapy, it's not necessarily required to say, for some, I would say in the United States, it's not required for you to take a test to say you're a sports physical therapist. I would like to challenge us in the physical therapy department in this field to actually have the degree to say that we are a sports physical therapist. And I say that meaning your sports certification. So say when you are in PT school, you are learning basic things. And I say basic, like it can be challenging your anatomy, physiology, your orthopedics, like ortho rehab, even neuro, all those stuff is great. And we learn to be a general PT. We learn how to not hurt patients, how to not hurt people, get people better, but not to performance and not to after they have rehab so that they're walking and they're functional, they can do their ADLs or their activities of daily living. Where do we go from there? And so that's basically you can kind of dive in different ways. And the sports side is something like dealing also with performance. And you can get that with physical therapy. You don't have to do some of the other stuff like be a strength and conditioning coach. You can, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just specifically talk about with sports. So your program may or may not offer sports physical therapy as an elective or give information about sports physical therapy. And it's kind of on you to kind of figure out what you need to do, whether it's networking, have different resources, whatever you need to do to make sure you feel competent to say that you are a sports physical therapist. So one of those things are CSM. So CSM, if you don't know, combined sections meetings, it is a physical therapy conference that is held almost every year. It was done virtually, maybe even an option now if you can't physically go to CSM. If you can go to CSM wherever it's held on the apta.org website, I would really plead that you go to CSM, especially if you are in physical therapy school. Usually school pays for a portion, maybe not all of it, but a portion of your registration. You just need to get yourself there. And when you're there, um, that's where the networking begins, and that's where you can actually literally dive in deep, like ask a whole bunch of questions, try to figure out what were your paths to get to where, what was that person's path to get to where they are. Because my path is different, some other person's path is different. I'm a physical therapist, athletic trainer. Someone that I know works with another team, they are a physical therapist, they are not an athletic trainer, but they are in professional sports. So it's not saying you always have to be a physical therapist, athletic trainer. Someone else I know, actually several, they're physical therapists and strength and conditioning coaches and act as a strength and conditioning coach. So those are some of the things to be aware, to know exactly what you want to do, and just like taking that information. So CSM is great because then there's a sports section, and at that sports section, you can talk with people who either work college sports, they may work high school, they may work professional sports, and may be there, and ask them what do they do to get there. Because you'll be surprised, some of those therapists, and a lot, did not do the sports certification. They just gain experience in sports, and then they call themselves sports physical therapists because they can actually prove and do what they did, what they actually do working with sports or professionals or athletes of all kinds. And a test is not going to actually tell you that you can do those things. It's just a certification. It's just saying that the didactic portion, your education wise, you have the education, if that makes sense. So say CSM rolls around, you could do that while you're in PT school. I advise do that during PT school because that can help shape, like, actually start connections early so you can help shape wherever you want to go after that. Say if you go to CSN, meet some people, it may not have gone as far as you want to. That's okay. Internships could hopefully roll around with COVID and all that stuff. Things are finally opening up. So I'm not going to say like you can't do anything now. Things are starting to allow more people to actually seek out internships. In the professional realm, it's actually harder. So I would say if you could start off at colleges, high schools, because that experience is still a great experience. You're going to learn so much. You're going to understand how to be resourceful. I am very grateful for working high school and college because it really helps me. So when teams looked at my experiences before I even got to the NBA, it actually helped my case. Instead of it saying, oh, I only had NBA experience or I only had NFL experience. Because sometimes when you look for internships in higher professional settings, not always, but sometimes you are not even doing anything besides being water girl, water boy, cleaning tables, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to learn, understand the ins and outs. I want to learn how to tape an ankle. I want to practice those things. I want to actually be involved in the injury reporting process or the return to play, the plan of care, talking with the physicians, stuff like that. Internships are great. And actually, at the high school level, depending on if there's a hospital system working alongside, you can actually gain a lot of experience. So like Duke is great on a standpoint of which any hospital. So say like any teaching hospital. So like Grady sometime like Grady in Atlanta, great hospital. They and even Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, they partner with some schools, some of those schools nearby. And as they partner with some of those schools nearby, they have athletic trainers. They may hire those athletic trainers, but those athletic trainers may actually be open to allowing you to volunteer. And when you want to volunteer to gain that experience to become that sports physical therapist, it's best to not ask for money, all that good stuff. Just like literally just get in that information, just observe, just kind of see if they allow you to do some stuff. Obviously, do that, do so. What will also help as you're observing and as you have time, whenever you have time, because I understand you're a student in school, whether it's undergrad or PT school, I would say get your emergency medical responder, that certification. That certification is very important. I know that kind of leads into another question. That certification is so important because it shows that I may not be an athletic trainer, however, I could save your life. Or I know beyond just doing first aid and CPR, I actually can understand, like, say, if an actual athlete who is in shape, active, has been playing many games, et cetera, literally just in the middle of a play or at the end of the play, just like passes out or just falls out in the middle of the field, I know what to do versus a person in the stands who may not be the best shape. You don't know their health status. You don't have an actual clue, and they pass out or they have trouble breathing. you handle those actually differently. Not completely differently, but meaning like it could be recognized differently. But if you actually have training in those things, and we would call EMR, emergency medical response, or what have some programs, including Conjugate Steps, have coined the term ERA. So basically, working with athletes emergency medicine wise, um, specifically to athletes. So some have watched the news, ESPN, all that good stuff. It has not been talked about too much now because it's been a while, but about 1 to 2 months now. We're still in November, so I think it's about last month or the end of September. Basically, thinking about soccer or football, a soccer player literally, passed out. So like knowing how to use the AED, knowing when to recognize that, not just say, oh, maybe it's a heat illness, heat stroke, knowing how to tell the difference, knowing when it's a cardiac arrest, understanding like what's going on. So I would suggest doing that. A great program, Conjugate Steps. Um, they actually will help with that. I will say you have to pay. There's not some, usually school is not going to help pay for that. So understand that's an investment for you. But you doing that early, whether it's undergrad or even PT school, is going to put you way ahead. So when you want to get into sports, they're like, if you want to observe, you want to volunteer, all you have to do is kind of like keep networking, meeting people, and going that route. Say now you're about to graduate PT school, you're trying to figure out how do I get my foot in the door. If observing went well, all that good stuff, and you're like, man, I need to go further besides observing, and you're networking and you feel like it's not getting anywhere, sometimes getting other certifications may help as you keep observing and you keep volunteering. That sounds crazy, it's a lot of work, but it's an avenue that you can take, because there's no such thing as an optimal plan because there's so many different ways and different avenues. But a lot of times if they see your face, they know what you do, they know you're a good and hard worker, you have great work ethic. That's what carries a lot of people way beyond just saying, oh, I have all these degrees and certifications. But if we are speaking on certifications, thinking about, we already talked about like doing the emergency medicine piece. We talked about, and then let's talk about like the getting a sports certification. So that is obviously on paper, doesn't mean that you could do anything. That's with any certification. It doesn't say like, oh, I know the ins and outs of sports X, Y, and Z. However, a sports certification, as you study for it, or you decide to do a residency for it, and a sports residency is an example, or you decide to observe, and all those observations you've taken time, you've done the required amount of hours. So APTA, the sports section, um, the that whole like to even take and sit for that exam, it has requirements that could be listed, that's listed on the website. And the requirements will say it could be more than 150 hours at this point, but it may say like 150 contact hours or on-field hours, and that means the time that you went to this high school in Atlanta, or you went to your actual college that you went to school, your undergrad, whatever, and you volunteered that amount of time, all that counts. So you want to add all that stuff up because they don't want people just taking the test and just be great test takers and pass it and just say walking around like, oh, I'm a sports physical therapist, but they don't know what to do. With sports physical therapy, as you're studying it, and there's curriculum out there, whether you decide to do a sports residency, which is usually great because it's their governing body, the APTA and the governing body, the CAPT, they're going to make sure the program is great. You're learning all the didactic materials that you need to know, not just to pass the test, but also if you're watching a game, a football game, and you see a player, twist their ankle, understanding from that standpoint, what was the mechanism of injury? How do I get them to the sideline? When is it safe to walk out into the field? Get them to the sideline, do a sideline assessment, or I can't even get them to the sideline. What do I do on the field to make it quick, efficient, and gives me enough information to know if we can walk off or if it's an ankle fracture? And how do we manage that? Then to the point where we're stabilizing the joint, we're checking above and below, checking cap refill, we're checking sensation, all that good stuff. And then we learn how to again stabilize, and then what do we do from there? What is the healing process? What is the healing process for an ankle fracture versus an ankle sprain? And to what extent is this ankle sprain? All those things you will learn. You may not learn that in PT school, so that's why sports residency is a great option, or someone that you observe and they actually want to literally like pour into you, not just say, oh, this is what I do for practice, like really educate you and give you resources that you like, books and journal articles and things that are like live feedback, live didactic that you can understand and learn. Another option for being a sports physical therapist is actually adding on athletic training. And I know for some people, they've heard those terms before, athletic training. In the United States, you no longer can do undergrad for athletic training. You actually have to do a master's now. So it has deterred a lot of people, if I want to really be honest. However, I understand that's what the professional, that's the direction they want to go towards. And there's even doctors of athletic training programs. If I want to give my 2 cents, because the question is asked of me, not saying it's a law or fact, just stating my opinion, I would not get a doctorate in athletic training. I would actually do the route of getting my master's in athletic training. If I wanted to do, say, if I'm not in PT school, or I'm okay with transferring in the middle of PT school, not saying advise you to do that, but if you actually have those thoughts, I'm in undergrad, I want to do physical therapy, this is what I want to do. You can actually go the route of choosing a program that has athletic training and physical therapy in it. It will actually be a 4-year program, because PT school is actually 3 to 3.5 years. Some programs are actually 4 years already for a doctorate in physical therapy. And then athletic training is 1 to 2 years, but some programs are combined. Shenandoah in, I think it's Virginia, that university, it is a private institution, so beware. I will talk another time about private and public institutions and what you need to do, or just options. But that is a program that has that. I think also Idaho State. That hopefully more and more programs will open up in the future. So say if somebody who did physical therapy and went back to athletic training school, or someone's in athletic training school, going to physical therapy, these things may or may not apply to you if you're going to go back to school. But those who are in undergrad, or maybe started the first year of PT school, and they're like cool with like doing this route, those two programs right now have those physical therapy and athletic training together. So you'd get your doctorate in physical therapy and get your master's in athletic training. With your master's in athletic training, it just ties into your physical therapy. So physical therapy, getting that rehab, um, and general PT, because once you graduate from PT school, you can work anywhere. So you're not going to get the specifics for sports or neuro just doing the physical therapy school. That's not what it's designed to do. That's not what it's designed as. You have to dive in a little bit deeper. And so, say a sports residency is an option. So I do advise that there's a lot of programs. You can Google like physical therapy sports residencies. Like Duke has one, Ohio State has one. Ohio State maybe a year and a half. Duke is a year. Miami, University of Miami has one. And that is, I'm not going to say you're going to become an athletic trainer, but it actually is, because I went through residency. It's really good. I would say comparable, not exactly, but comparable to athletic training. However, you're not going to get a degree. So I want people to be clear. If you do a residency, whether it's orthopedic residency, sports residency, you do not get a degree. What you can do is you most likely will qualify to sit for a board exam in a specialty in sports, specialty in orthopedics. And then that's how you can kind of get that title if you want to have that degree or certification. Athletic training, that's another route. I'm not saying you have to do both. I'm not saying you have to do athletic training and do a residency, but some of the options that you have. So when you do athletic training school, you will learn obviously the didactic portion, the on-field assessment, that hands-on learning, other certifications you can do, things that are actually current and up to date with athletic training, tied in with physical therapy. So those are some of the routes to do. And then say if you wanted to work in specific settings, all it is networking. So if you're not going to conferences, CSM is a conference. TCC is another conference. I suggest people to go. Like, that is a great conference. Team Concept. I'm saying this wrong. Team Concept Conference. So it's literally specifically for that international sports section, or I should say the sports section that's part of the APTA. I know they've changed their name, so I want to make sure, International Academy of Sports Physical Therapy, make sure I say that correctly. That is really great. Like, you will really meet some great people there. Say if you think CSM is too big or it's actually too expensive, usually TCC is a little bit cheaper. Usually, it's about a couple of days, and it's literally just sports, and you can get an idea of like being like tactical athletes. So say if you're military, say if women athletics, upper extremity athletics, obviously your basketball, football, you'll see people from working in college sports, people in the Kevin Wilkes Fellowship, If you don't know who Kevin Wilkes is, please look him up. Amazing guy. He offers a fellowship. Doesn't with this fellowship, you don't have to. Well, unless the requirements have changed, you don't have to do a residency somewhere else. But you can apply for that. And his program is amazing. I didn't even go through that program. Heard so many great things. Talked to a lot of people who went through that program, and they have literally like branched off into like great things. Whether it was track and field that they wanted to do, they wanted to do football, college football, NFL. And they have obviously the participants have done the work, but they've literally that fellowship has taken you to these NFL facilities and these training facilities in different sports, not just like football, so a lot of different sports, and you get to network. That helps you that networking piece, and then you learn a lot of things and you do a lot of things, and it's about 2 weeks long, could be a little bit longer. But that is awesome. I suggest like doing that if you can apply for that. That is a great program. And make sure I'm not getting off topic. So we just talked about CSM, TCC, those two conferences. And then we talked about board exams already. So obviously making sure you have the amount of hours in the studying material for that. APTA has it on their website, sports section, International Academy of Sports Physical Therapy. You can check on all that stuff, see if you want to do the residency route, if you want to do orthopedic residency, a sports residency. It's about a year. Ohio State and maybe some other programs are a year and a half. Understanding that, understanding there's usually a salary involved in that, so you're not like just broke. But I am going to say you're probably going to be broke anyway. But with residencies, you'll probably get about 75% of the going salary of that city. So say if I was in Ohio, going to Ohio State, or I would say I'm going to Duke University, and I got accepted into the program, and I'm thinking, oh, Durham, North Carolina, what is the average PT salary? And then you may get 75% of that, or whatever that health system does, may get 75% of that salary so you can live somehow. Because it's not a great salary, but you're there to learn. That's about a year, so it's just sacrifice, honestly. Once you do those programs, and while you're in those programs, and even if you did athletic training, you didn't want to do residency, while you're in those programs, those usually programs really great, like University of Miami, all those great programs, they usually take you to conferences and they usually pay for those. And that's actually how you network, because you're like, you're walking around with the shirt, University of Miami or Duke University, whatever it is, whether it's the athletic training school, whether it's the physical therapy school, the residency programs, and that's how you network. Obviously, you can network with other students, but then you're trying to talk to the people on the panel. You're trying to understand, what do they do, where do they get to, and a lot of times they can see your hunger and passion, or you take their advice and you follow back up. That's the biggest thing I will say. Follow back up. Hey, I did this. I took your advice. This is what I've done, or I didn't get anywhere with this. What do you suggest? What's another better option? Or what now, because COVID has really disrupted a lot of stuff and things are finally opening up? What do you suggest I do now? Those things kind of are helpful. Because pre-COVID, there was another program that opened up, but it was specifically with the NFL. I don't know if the program's still available, but I had talked to a lot of students about this. So be on the lookout. I would say check LinkedIn, because that's another great networking platform. It is called, or I should say, it's with the Indianapolis Colts. And so that NFL team, Aaron, I think he's still there. So literally, he'll take 1 to 2 students, and he has done this in the past. During COVID times, I cannot say that he's done that before, but pre-COVID, he has actually taken 1 to 2 students. They're either physical therapists or athletic trainers, but usually it's been physical therapists, or they've been duly credentialed. Usually it's like to really just expose them. Like, his program, I've already talked to people who went through the program. I've already talked to Aaron himself. A very great program. Obviously, you'll be there for the NFL Combine. You're going to be there during the season. You are going to be, there are housing options. There are obviously like food and all that good stuff. That it depends on what they decided now on that. However, you're going to be in there. You're not going to just be water girl, water boy. You're actually going to be involved in the everyday processes of, obviously, observe first, see how they do their program. What is it like to be in the NFL? Whether it's draft, or I should say combine time, leading up to the draft, during season, when there's hurt players, how are we managing in that? The plan of care, how are they deciding that? When now you add chiropractors, physical therapists, athletic trainers, those who are duly credentialed as a physical therapist, athletic trainer, the head coach, the assistant coaches, like position coaches, the team physician, the team surgeon, the team PA. Now I'm talking to a lot of people who we're just talking about a lot of people, and there's actually more. But how do you talk to those health professionals? How do you make sure everybody's on the same page, keeping the players' health like in the center of it and not just our own agenda? What games are we looking forward to actually do like a return to play? What are some of the drills? So if you have performance scientists, what drills do they need to do to be able to demonstrate that they are safe to return to practice? And then how they're safe to return to a game? Do we have different restrictions on them? Do we have to do some type of taping, bracing, padding, etc.? With performance science and strength conditioning coach, or even and the physical therapist, like what are some of the loads? What is their acute to chronic load? I'm not trying to like confuse people, but literally we need to know like they've been sitting out for this ankle sprain for 6 weeks now. What do we need to do to make sure when they go out to play, they're not out of breath, out of shape, huffing and puffing, can't even move, can't work around a block or a screen, or they can't block or they can't screen? Like, are we going to start using ankle braces, et cetera, et cetera? So his program is amazing. I know I've talked about a few programs now, but just a running list of some of the things take advantage of, or talking to the people, finding out who those people are via LinkedIn. Usually they post on LinkedIn and they say, oh, I went through Kevin Wilkes fellowship program, or I went through the physical therapy program that is with Aaron with the Indianapolis Colts. Find those people on LinkedIn. Literally, you just put that in the keyword, or you following the NFL, and the NFL posts the NBA, we haven't done that necessarily. But the NFL, I can speak on the NFL. The NFL is like on like the LinkedIn, their page. They have a lot of times posted like, oh, opportunities or accepting applications. They have done it that way as well for different things. Say if you don't even want to do athletic training, physical therapy, you don't want to do the NFL for the sports side, you want to do like marketing or whatever. Like literally, like when I tell you, I've seen a lot of these opportunities on LinkedIn. Do that, and then a lot of times you may even find the person that actually went through the program, et cetera, et cetera. Pick their brain, ask them those questions, because I didn't go through those programs. I only talked to the people who went through those programs, and it's amazing. I did the boring route, which was physical therapy school, and I did athletic training. And I mean, shoot, a lot of people don't want to do that, but I have talked to some people who went back to school, and while they're in their second program, a lot of teams have already hit them up wanting to hire them, and they're like, hey, legally, I can't even work yet in this professional setting until I pass my boards for um, the second group of study, whether it's the athletic training route or the physical therapy route. So I would say in that sense, keep your eyes open on that. Emergency medicine is going to be the go-to, whether you have graduated school or not. And that's like undergrad, start on that from now, because that is what's going to open a lot of people's eyes, get a lot of people interested. You're like, oh, because literally what they're going to do when they look at your resume, oh, you did emergency medicine, EMR, ERA, through Conjugate Steps, or obviously there's other programs. Why'd you do that? I mean, man, that really like attracted me to your resume, because like I didn't get the same cookie cutter resume and positions, or I should say, cover letter and personal statement saying, "Oh, I injured my knee in high school, and that's when I knew I wanted to do physical therapy." And I'm saying that because I did the same thing. I didn't know what else to say, because I was just like, shoot. I mean, I like physical therapy now, but I did hurt myself. What else do I say? But when you do stuff like that, it's different. Or I know another physical therapist who's now a physical therapist and athletic trainer. She went back to school for athletic training. Very hot commodity, because she like under her undergrad, she became a registered dietitian. So she did the nutrition route. So these are options. You don't have to go to undergrad and choose pre-physical therapy. Screw that. Do not try to get in these little cookie cutter programs. Do whatever you want to do. What I will say is, when it comes to physical therapy schools and you're choosing physical therapy schools, they look at your GRE, they look at your GPA, they look at that combo. They don't just look at your GRE, even though on their websites, it will say you have to have this score in math and in English or whatever. They will have those cutoffs. However, trust me, because I've been on the other side, and they look at that combo. It is literally like a correlation. It's a correlation to see how successful you're going to be in school, and it's not just based on just your GRE. It is also a combination of GPA. Also, too, when I went to PT school and started looking around and realizing, yo, this is crazy. A lot of people at majored in art history. What was another one that I thought was like, what the heck? Hospitality. I was like, what the F? Like, what? All these things. Like, I learned my lesson. Like, I'm telling people now, do what you want to learn, what you want to do. Obviously, if you do something like finance or business, you're going to have a lot of classes that are going to obviously do a lot of business and finance. You're going to work extra hard to get your prereqs done. So your prereqs is going to be determined by the PT school, and a lot of PT schools require the same amount of prereqs or same type usually, and that would be your physics. I obviously know like how much physics your school needs. So like one program actually only wanted a semester or physics one. Some programs wanted a full year, meaning like physics ones and physics two. And then some, but obviously everybody has to do your anatomy, physiology. Like just know that that's a no brainer. That is what physical therapy school is. So yeah, anatomy, physiology. I was on a waiting list at undergrad, if I want to be really completely honest. And I was like, I'm not waiting. So I went to a community college, and there's nothing wrong with community college. I want to make sure those hours and credits transferred back over to my main school that I went to. So if you live in Georgia, obviously other places have that, but like, dang, I don't even think it's called Georgia Perimeter anymore. But literally, like, I went to a community college to get my anatomy physiology. I did that in the summer. So literally, I was like, as soon as my undergrad started again for that fall semester, I was already on track. And everybody else who wanted to wait around for that waiting list to try to start that following fall, nah, bro, I wasn't doing that. I'm not trying to wait. And I'm not even trying to graduate late. That's another thing too. So literally, I did anatomy, physiology, community college. Most schools ask for physics. I took physics one at my university. Physics two was like, well, physics one kind of bust my butt that I was literally like, what the hell? Like, I think I barely passed. And I was like, I'm going to do community college for physics two. And I actually learned a lot. So it wasn't even just like, oh, just to pass. Literally, it was a smaller class size, and I was able to ask questions, be able to understand, be able to pick people's brains, eat my own classmates. I learned a lot. What else? Chemistry. Everybody has to do chemistry. Most likely you'll do that in your undergraduate institution, unless you are doing your first 2 years at a community college or at home, which is nothing wrong with that. Or if you're in high school and you decide to do, I forgot that what it's called because I ain't do it. Shoot, it cost money when I was in school. But literally, you know how you do high school and you just go to college during the day, or those things, that stuff. Yeah, you could do that, whatever. But literally, chemistry, um, organic chemistry may not be required. So please know that. Please understand these advisors in undergrad, they're paid to just put you in classes. They don't know your goals. They don't care about your goals. I'm just being honest. So they may say you need to take this, and it could be an elective for your undergraduate degree major to graduate, but you don't need it for like PT school and stuff. So please be aware if that is the case, trying to research yourself, on the list of your options of your classes. If you have other options besides organic chemistry, unless you really want to do organic chemistry, I'm not trying to, push people away from doing organic chemistry, but a lot of times that is not required for PT school. So please understand that if your advisor puts you in that and you looking all confused, like, why am I doing this? And God forbid fail the class, and you don't want it to affect your GPA. So know what PT schools you want to go to know what schools to look out for, and what schools you could put, or schools, what classes to look out for, what classes to put on the back burner, especially if your advisor is saying, no, you need to take this, you need to take this. Figure out a way how you can kind of finesse the situation, if you get what I'm trying to say. Because you don't want to end up in a class you want to be in, like calculus, if you don't like calculus and it's not even required. If a basic math is required, do that. Basic statistics is required, do that. However, if you happen to do a pre-physical therapy route or exercise sports science, anything like that, and you get in there, you love it, great. And if you start, you find out there's a statistics class, but it's specifically for biomechanics or whatever it is, that will fulfill your requirement for stats for PT school entry. So be aware if your advisor says, "Oh, you need to take a stats class," but you already took or you're about to take a stats that's in your major, that's just literally goes a little bit deeper, like a Nova and all that crazy stuff, that the research stuff in physical therapy. Like, do not double dip. Do not waste your time. Do not waste precious money, loan money, scholarships, all that, grants, whatever, on that type of stuff. So that's what I'll say on that. I literally talked a little bit too much on all that, but I thought it was good because I just think about all the stuff that like I got screwed over on, and nobody tells you because nobody knows. Nobody went to school for this. If they did go to school for this, they ain't talking to you. And there's like a lot of Black people more and more going to school for this, and I want to encourage people, but also understand there's different avenues, different ways. So yeah, let's get on to, because we only have a couple of it left because I answered some of the future questions, which is awesome. But okay, how important are certain titles like CSCS for becoming selected in careers like sports physical therapy? So I did touch on a little bit. However, the way it's specifically asked in here, I'm going to answer that. So yeah, CSCS stands for like a certified strength and conditioning coach, just so people are aware if they didn't know. Um, so say for sports physical therapists being in professional sports. So say if like I think the question was becoming selected in careers like sports physical therapy. So if we're talking specifically like college or like professional sports, I can only speak on that. I can't speak on high school. Well, yes, I can. I was a head of the trainer at high school, but you don't need any of that stuff. But for college and for actual professional sports, like degrees and titles like that, if I want to be honest, because the United States is more of like, show me. If you don't record it, if you don't write it down, if you don't show any certifications, your classes, your paper, it doesn't count. I will say it's important, and only because people care about that you took the time to study to pass the exam, have these letters like the alphabet behind your name. I'm just being completely honest. Just to show that you can actually do what you do. However, those letters, excuse me, those letters do not mean that you actually can do your job, but it opens the door. It puts it on your resume. It gets people like, yo, what the heck is this? I see RD, I see CSCS, or I see DPT, I see ATC, I see um, EMT, EMR, ERA, those type of letters that they may see, FES, those letters are like almost like someone searches and they put in the keywords, they put those letters in keywords and key searches. Hey, what's up? Key searches. And they see that and that pops up, whether that's LinkedIn, like wherever, however you post your stuff, or even on resumes and stuff like that. What's up? Um, sorry, I was a player walking by. Searches and stuff like that. That just shows people like, oh, they meet the qualifications. Because at the end of the day, you have to think of like scope of practice. You have to think of legally when stuff goes down. I have a certified athletic trainer, or I have a doctor of physical therapist, and they are certified. They passed the board exam. So those things are important. And it's like, oh, if I need to look at strength conditioning, they may not act or work as a strength conditioning coach, but I know they understand the basics. So if you pass those exams, they know like, oh, they know the basics. They know physical therapy, they're not going to do any harm. They know athletic training, oh, they can save a life, or they can actually train people to from the field, like right at time of injury, to get them back onto the field. That's what athletic training usually that ATC kind of tells people when they see that. When they see CSCS, it's like they know the basics of nutrition. They know the basics of how to progress exercise beyond physical therapy and like your 3 sets of 10 that like irks a lot of people. But they know how to do progressive resistive training. They know how to get people a progression of skipping to then hopping, double leg hopping, split stance, single leg hopping, to then jogging, to then running, to then sprinting, to then changing of direction, acceleration, deceleration, based on reaction, stuff like that. So that type of stuff, it kind of correlates too with athletic training, but kind of deals with CSCS. So having those help them. If these are all extra, say if you're like, oh, I have my SCS, which technically now they want you to actually spell it out instead of having those letters, but SCS, OCS, just say it just for sake of time. SCS, a sports certified specialist. If you have that, that kind of tells you whether you did athletic training or not. You have enough experience on field to know what a game looks like, preparation for a game, working long hours, um, how to do emergency medicine, how to take a player from off the field to get them to progression safely, work on the healing process, knowing the healing times, knowing that an ankle sprain is going to progress differently than an ACL rupture or ACL tear. Then it also tells you with the SCS or even an OCS, it will also tell you if they have surgery, what are some of the basic protocols. And I say protocols, not saying like rigid stuff, but literally basic, like, okay, if I had a meniscal repair, I know I'm not going to bend my knee this far within these few amount of weeks. I know I may be locked in this degree. I know I may be weight bearing, I may not be weight bearing, depending on how much was repaired. If it's an ACL reconstruction, I know if it's by itself versus an ACL with an MCL with a meniscectomy, I may handle that differently. Their pain actually may look like this. So an SCS, OCS helps you that, kind of helps you with that, because usually the exam tests basic stuff, or you went through residency, or you were under someone's mentorship or supervision to then sit for the exam, to then be able to have that certification. And that certification tells these uh, employers, I would say, in these professional big institutions, it tells them, hey, they know what to do, basic stuff. They could be a rehab director if they really need to. They just need experience, like that type of stuff. And those certifications obviously just opens the door. It just gets your foot in the door, starts the conversation. Obviously, it's not going to say, it doesn't say it gives you the job, but it opens the door tremendously. That if it's like, oh, you just need experience, okay, well, why don't you do an internship with us first? In the NBA, or why don't you work in the G League or minor league baseball, work there and let's gain some experience. If you do well with that, then we could probably open a position, elsewhere. And if I want to be honest, that was my case. I did have physical therapy, I did have other training. I did want to do like a residency, so that's extra. I'm not saying you have to do those things, but we already talked about early on in this video different ways to kind of get your foot in the door. But those certifications, EBT, ATC, or EMT, or the ERA that I said with Conjant Steps, that company, CSCS, strength conditioning coach, with is just, basically with that now, you just have to make sure you graduate undergrad, you study, whether it's book material, strength conditioning principles, they have even online materials. You take the exam, you pass the exam, you're already a CSCS, but obviously it doesn't mean you could, do those things, but you have a head knowledge of it. Let's be honest. But if you do a residency, you'll get a little bit more practice. So all those things are great. And then for me, it was like, yo, you got experience, but you ain't got experience like that. And it was like, yeah, it's kind of true, kind of. I mean, for some people, you never have enough experience. So keep that in mind, but don't let that deter you. Keep going, keep observing, keep networking. And if the opportunity opens up, it's going to open up. So like for me, I ended up starting off minor league. I didn't start off right straight to the NBA. I started G League. So I had to prove myself. So even though you're like, yo, I proved myself doing all this school, I proved myself with being a head trainer at a high school. Not everybody else did that, but you have to understand, like, it depends on who your employer is, but those things just opened the door for me. And then I had to prove myself. I had to gain experience in that field, that setting. So whether it was the NFL or whatever, being on NFL actually has internships as well. They usually post theirs a little bit more public. NBA don't usually publicize or put or post their internships. So be aware of that. A lot of times it's like you being active on LinkedIn, active on Instagram, and getting your name out there and networking with people who are in those positions, who hire or give out internships, and also to depending on what their COVID situation is, if they're going to allow internship. But I know I did already speak on some internships, fellowships, and programs earlier on in this video, but I don't want to like waste people's time. But that's basically, you're just getting your foot in the door and you're just gaining experience. Because now at this point, when you get hired, whether it's a internship or whether it is through your school, so that's another thing I want people to be aware of. Depending on your program, a lot of times your PT school, well, everybody in PT school has to, in athletic training school, you have to do clinicals. you have to do clinical rotations. And a lot of times you have to do an ortho one, or they say outpatient, they may say inpatient rehab, they may say, or SNF or skilled nursing facility, acute care. You have options, right? But you have to do one in each category. Sometimes, like an outpatient or an ortho one, like sports can actually qualify for that. So I want people to be aware of that. And I say right when you start PT school, before they even start talking about clinical rotations, I say do that. And I wish I thought about that, but now that I'm looking at my classmate from PT school, he was so smart. He started on that. Like, I think, like, as soon as he knew what PT school he was going to, he started on that, like, networking. Hey, I'm starting PT school. I'm in this state, in the same state as, this team or whatever. Um, can I talk to you? Can I actually, you know, hopefully have a relationship between the clinical coordinator and you guys to see if a clinical rotation could be in the making? We actually don't do our clinicals. Say if you guys are your second year, or maybe some people do in their third year. Can we start, can we have that conversation from now? The biggest thing is doing stuff so ahead of time that when professional teams are looking for interns, when they want to do interns, because a lot of more teams are starting now with COVID. They're finally starting to open that back up. So say if the opportunity opens up before these teams, selected a person or got maybe past the first round of interviews, you could actually be on the table. You could be in the conversation now. So that's some of the things I would say, like talk to your clinical coordinator and find out their policy, because some clinical coordinators in some schools, be aware, they may say, oh, well, no, if we do that, we have to make this opportunity available for every student. And while I say that, do not be scared if you hear that, because if you already created develop that relationship, cultivating that relationship with that team or that person that that you have networked, put in that work. Everything will work out. That's what I'll say without speaking too much specifically on that. But everything will work out to the standpoint of like what you will get what you have worked for. That's what I'll say. Because I know some PT schools have done the lottery system for selecting their clinical rotations, their locations, and where they're going to be. Also, too, some clinical rotation or some clinical coordinators may say, no, we don't have a relationship or a partnership with that team. Say if it's like Carolina Panthers, you're like, oh, we don't have a relationship with that team. And instead of you saying, oh, it's a closed door, we can't do nothing, see if there's any way possible, because as soon as you start PT school, you've already tried to like plant the seed, literally, because you've already talked to the Panthers or whatever it is. And you talk with the clinical coordinator and it's like, okay, what do I need to do? What paperwork do I need to get started to actually make sure we can start and cultivate a relationship to get a contract, to get a internship in the making? So all those things can actually happen, even if it may not be your short term. So usually you have like a short term rotation, a long term rotation. Maybe it could be in time for your long term rotation. So start putting in that work from now. Start networking from now, whether you're even in an undergrad. Like start putting that work. Biggest thing is going to be you go on LinkedIn and find these people. Like LinkedIn has been such a lifesaver. I got my jobs through LinkedIn, and that's me without applying for jobs. Like, so I'm telling you the power of LinkedIn. Like, social media is great, but LinkedIn has like really done a lot of stuff, whether it's telling you internships are available, a job's available, stuff like that. So I would say like keep up with those things, and then stick with your basic certifications like we just talked about, DVC, ATC, or your SCS, OCS, ERA, which, or EMT, EMR, that type of stuff that falls into the same umbrella. ERA, EMT, ERA, EMR, that kind of they fall together. So it just depends on how you go about that. And we talked about early part of the video, what program, a really great program I even went through, and then I did other stuff, but to start off, to kind of get your foot in the door. So you're really just seen. You're just trying to be seen because you want somebody to give you the opportunity, and then you can kind of move on and prove yourself. That's literally all you have to do. So let's see here. How did opportunities like the career you're in now come about? And I literally already talked about that. So basically, LinkedIn and all the schooling, or not necessarily schooling, but those certifications I just listed literally a few seconds ago. But that's how those opportunities opened up on LinkedIn. Because literally, I went to these certifications. I went to CSM or I went to TCC, and I met people. They may went to the Kevin Wilkes Fellowship. They may have went through St. Andrews Institute. I didn't go to those places. of course, they're like, dang, do I go to those places in order to open an opportunity for me? You don't have to. It's an opportunity you can. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you just network with those people. Or the Indianapolis Colts, when they have their program. I didn't get to go through that program. I wasn't selected. However, I talked to some people that did go through it because of LinkedIn or these conferences, just talking to people, and I found out stuff, and they gave me insight, and it helped me get to somewhere else. So everybody's like, path is different. So I would just say keep networking, especially on LinkedIn. Anytime you get a chance to go to a conference, go ahead and do so, because I would think that's really going to be helpful, just to open those doors. That's how the opportunities open for me, to be honest. I didn't apply even for the position I'm in now. I didn't apply for a lot of these positions. If I want to be honest, even my head athletic training position at a high school, I was sought out because I just kept observing, kept volunteering. So they saw my face. Oh, who are you again? Oh, you're in school? You're still in school? What are you in school for? That's all it did. That's all I did. Obviously, prayer, hard work. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you just get yourself out there, a soccer game, little league soccer game, get yourself out there. See if there's somebody there. If it's a paramedic EMT, talk to them, ask them what they did to get where they are. Figure out there's classes you can take. Because then literally it's just going to just flash the light to a lot of employers like, yo, why did she did this? Ooh, snap. We might need to hire her, but she's still in school. Well, let's offer her internship, even though she's still in school. I'm telling you, I have too many stories, more than the number, like more than my fingers, that has happened to people. They were still in school, and people were trying NBA and NFL teams trying to offer them jobs, and they can't even take it. So like, yo, let's give you an internship at least. Let's give you that. I'm telling you, just like get yourself out there, because parents are still taking their kids out to AAU basketball and soccer, and all this stuff is still going down. And some of those parents know things, whether they could be a physician themselves, or there could be an EMT there, there could be a paramedic there, there could be somebody like covering the game. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, they may send people out to actual like certain events. And obviously, you don't have to live in Georgia. I don't live in Georgia anymore. I'm just giving an example. Sometimes those teaching hospitals, like Grady Hospital, they send out people, and you just have to just go and just kind of see, look around, talk. Conferences, look around, talk. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. This is a really good question. Okay. How important is which PT school you attend? Okay. So if I want to be honest, I can't be like too direct, because it's like a yes, it is important, then it's not. So every PT school has to be they have to be governed and accredited by the CAPT program. So athletic training school will be KD or CAATE, CAPT for physical therapy, CAPTE, same thing with residency fellowships. So all these schools who are accredited to accept people into their school pay all this dang all money. Everybody knows it's expensive, but let's not talk about that right now. Whether public or private, they have to be governed. They have to be accredited. If not, they cannot take students. They cannot take their money. So that being said, trust me, you are going to gain information. You're going to get great curriculum. Okay, I ain't gonna say great curriculum. You're going to get your basics needs met. But like beyond that, that's up to you. That's you volunteering, taking the extra time, going above and beyond, trying to find athletic training rooms, or if they have sports there, whatever. I went to Emory. It's expensive. I don't suggest people to go to an expensive school. Yes, the name says, oh, Emory X, Y, and Z, but it comes with a price tag. And that comes with price tag meaning you know what you're talking about, or there's some talk about like, oh, that means they know it all. Just know that it comes with the territory. Or it may be it's expensive, or that name says you can do what you're doing, or that name also says like, yo, like they're snobby, whatever shoot. People gonna say what they're gonna say, whatever. Be you and be the best version of you while you're in school. So when you learn things and you network with people, say if they graduate from that program right before you, or they're coming in or whatever, or the professors are there, they may know other professors at other schools that you can network. And then it depends on the PT school that fits you. So fits you financially. So public school wise or private school wise, usually the tuitions are different. So please understand that. Understand what kind of loans you're going to be working with, what kind of grants should they offer, what kind of scholarships should they offer. That should really determine your PT school, whether you need to stay in the state that you live in, whether you want to move. the living expenses when you move and you live somewhere else. Are you going to be living with family? Are you going to be living by yourself? Are you going to have to pay for rent? Are you going to have a roommate? Those things, to be honest, I would say look into those things. The name, whether like when I say the name does and doesn't matter, like yeah, people look at my resume and say, "Oh, you went to Emory X, Y, and Z." However, the people I work with, people with in other teams, and people in the NFL and all that stuff who are physical therapists, some of them didn't go to these schools. They didn't go to Emory. They didn't go to some of these like top notch Duke University. Like when I say top notch, I mean like the name. They didn't go to these schools. Some of them went to hybrid programs. So that's another thing to be aware of. Some programs like have hybrid programs where it's like it's online and then you do labs in person. So, and also COVID has made that actually available for a lot of people. And so, no, in that sense, no, it doesn't matter what school you go to, because you need to make sure your grades are straight. You need to make sure you're actually not just going to class and taking tests, but you're actually networking. And when I say I went to Emory, just be like, oh, it's big old name. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do sports medicine. Emory's Division 3. Okay. So if anybody knows about college sports, Division 3 does not say a lot. Division 3 kind of tells you like, yo, you're dealing with athletes, but you yourself, like myself, could probably play those sports too if I wanted to. No disrespect to Division 3 athletes, because I'm saying not all Division 3 schools, not all Division 3 athletics are all the same. I would say specifically for that school at that time, Division 3 for Emory, when I was there observing and volunteering, yes, I could be out there. So so to be aware of. So it doesn't matter like it's like because I could have said like, yo, it's not Division 1, it's not Division 2. I may not even get to go far. They may not, you know, um, the NFL or NBA or college teams, other college teams like University of Miami, LSU, they're not going to see that I've worked with high end clients, high end athletes, so that I may not actually do well. No, you don't look at it that way. You look at the best of your opportunity. I looked at it as like, okay, it's Division 3. Okay, hey, shoot, they're not gonna hire me. I'm still in school. I'm doing physical therapy. At that point, I actually took my test for athletic training. So I was actually a certified athletic trainer, but they're not gonna hire me as one. So it's like, okay, I can volunteer. They're not gonna pay me. So it's like, okay, cool, let's volunteer. And so like when I had time for my studies and I had like free time, I went to go see if I could shadow help out. I did track and field just to help out, just like not even much. Do whatever I could do. That was the biggest thing. Do whatever I could do, whether that was being like wrapping ice on, that was like whatever I was doing. But at the end of the day, like I would help carry out some of the materials, the tables, the tents, set up the tents. I was talking and networking. I met up with someone that didn't even know I like not until I got there realized like, yo, this is the same athletic trainer that I had in undergrad. That is so crazy. So like you never know who you meet, you never know. But even like the other people, the physicians, the team physicians, the attending physicians for the events. Well, there's basketball. We did not have football. So that's another thing. Like use what you have. Track and field was one of the things that I was like, okay, we'll do that. And I think that's when like some HBCUs were there and had a track meet, got to meet some other people there, and you just network. Like obviously do your job, but you're having those side conversations. Hey, where did you go to school? Hey, how long have you been doing this? um Stuff like that. How did you get to where you are? Those things go far. So having those conversations, following up. If you don't have a card, don't have to have a card. Do your LinkedIn, send your LinkedIn over, make a LinkedIn. If you do not make a link, please make a LinkedIn profile. I'm telling you, it's going to make you go far. Even if you feel like I don't have much to put on there, it doesn't matter. Make one, because along the way, you're going to actually have a section where courses you attended, events you covered, events you volunteered for, events you volunteered for, like whether it's a stinking like the turkey trots, like whatever, being a volunteer and helping out with ice bags. Put that stuff on your resume. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna actually open eyes to a lot of people. And then you can start adding your courses, um, the certifications and stuff like that, because you're gonna take your time doing that. You're not trying to rush into anything. Because the networking is when people know you, that's what's actually going to open the door. It's not all these certifications. Certifications just really to let them see, like kind of like a flashy like piece of paper. Oh snap! They did what? What the heck is that? Okay, I know those letters. And then you have to just do your part and work hard. So I would say like that part. It doesn't matter what PT school you go to, because it depends on what's there, and trying to figure out what you can do to maneuver yourself to be seen, to network, and to actually just grow. And that's going to depend on where you are. Like I could have just said, yo, Division 3, shoot, no football. What am I going to do? Our basketball is not that great. It was a few years ago. But like literally trying to figure that out by just going in there and just introducing myself. There were a lot of times I went to the training room. The training room was closed. So I was like, dang it. Okay, what do I do? I just kept multiple times, kept going, kept going, kept going. And until I saw the door open, I was like knocking on the door. Hey, I'm a physical therapy student here. I'm in my first year, and I was wondering, could I just observe? I don't want any money. I just want to volunteer. Just want to like see what you guys do here. That's all I did. And when people hear you say you don't want money, I'm telling you, it opens doors. It sounds crazy, but it opens doors because people are like, oh, they ain't trying to, you know, ask for some money just to kind of get their foot in the door. They just want to be there. That's how you get going. So I think I'm on my last question. We've been here for a while, so I don't want you guys are probably like, yo, you talking a lot, but it's all good. We're gonna make more of these because we have more and more questions coming through. Not on this video with me, more in the DMs, and so we're gonna make more opportunities for answering those questions as well. But basically, last question is, what should be the primary message in a personal statement? So I'm assuming this is referring to, like, say if you are applying for something or have a resume, have a cover letter, you have a personal statement, stuff like that. Or you may have it on your LinkedIn, you may have like a little bio on your profile or something like that. If I am wrong, please message me back. I can correct this later. Based on that, you want to start off by saying who you are, not your name, because everybody can see your name up top, but kind of say like where you're from and something quick like, yo, I'm from a small town, a small town called Miramar, Florida, in South Florida. And you could even talk about, I am a first generation graduate, or I am a first generation, student. Or I could say my family's not from America, or I could say something like, I have a high desire to work in professional sports. Like you could say that because of, and you could even start by saying, my mother was injured. My mother was paralyzed after this. Or I know it sounds crazy, but I'm actually speaking from my personal experience. My mom was paralyzed before. That's a whole nother story for another day if anyone's ever interested. But let's stay on topic. I'm just giving examples. It could be like, I had to do physical therapy for a broken leg or whatever. And when I say if you were to come off like I was hurt in high school or I tore my ACL or whatever that is, please be careful not to start off with that. I know that sounds crazy because I just gave that example. Please be careful because a lot of people see that bio. They may see it on a resume. They may see it on a cover letter. They may see it on a personal statement. They may see it a lot. So if you can't start off by something like, oh, I am interested in, whether it's progressing someone from an injury to performance, or to be able to walk again, to be able to do ADLs, to be able to be a parent again, whatever that is. Like, say if those are your goals you want to do, make sure you're very creative and to just grab people's eye, because a lot of times some people may take a scan and they may go through the first three letters or first three sentences, and those first three sentences can kind of say, no, I don't want to read that, but kind of like try to grab people's attention. For me, yes, I did get injured in high school, all that good stuff, and I found a physical therapist. But if I want to be honest, I know I talked about this in USA Today when I was featured in an article for Black History Month. I am being so serious. Like my mother, like soldier. Okay, I thank the Lord for her. My mother, when she was paralyzed just from having a child, I had a stroke, and trying to figure out how to move, like figure out sensation, how to talk, how to feel, how to know how to say when she feels something, how to wiggle her toes, how to get edge of bed, how to stand up, how to walk, how then to drive, how then to walk without a walker, how then to pick up things, pick up groceries, like put dishes on top of a shelf. Those things to me, that was so like eye-opening just to see that process. I was so stinking young, but seeing that whole process and that rehab, her 8 months just to get her to stinking walk, bro, like just to get her out of the hospital. Those things right there, that's what grew my passion. That's one of the things that grew my passion, because I was like, yo, yeah, I played sports. Yeah, I was supposed to go here and play and this, that, and the third. and had to have surgery, had to rehab it. Yeah, that's cool and all, but what is in your life? What's in your life? Whether it's a family member who's a diabetic who had to go through dialysis, who became weak, a family member who had COVID, survived it, but they're out of breath when they need to go up the stairs. They have trouble now getting in and out of bed. Whatever that case may be, tap in, like find out, jot down ideas, what's like really be passionate about. Your passion, whatever you're passionate about, like how can you get someone's jumper? I mean, if that's what it is, how can you get somebody's jumper to improve, you know, running around from a screen or breaking through a screen, a catch and shoot, or dribbling like from the quad, whatever that is. I'm not trying to make too much basketball like terminology, but like whatever that is, find out what your passion is, what is driving you. So when people read your bio, they're just like, yo, like I didn't know. Not saying you have to get like, not saying you have to be too personal. Be professional, but you could talk about what was a turning point in your life that was like, yo, I want to do physical therapy, or I want to do engineering, or whatever you want to do, and just really like write that stuff, even if it's just bullet points. Even if your personal statement is bullet points at this point, because you can't even get complete sentences. Start off with that. Find out what you're passionate about. Me, start off with my mom. Yeah, I got hurt, but then you just think about your mom and how like she had 48 hours to live. She had actually a hemorrhagic stroke, not an ischemic stroke. I'm not trying to get too scientific, but like all that about prayer and whatever you want to talk about. If you want to talk about your personal relationship, or if you don't want to talk about your personal relationship with the Lord, talk what you're passionate about. Because when people see that passion, they know, yo, I want that person right there. I want that person. Her personal statement touched me. It wasn't just saying, oh, she got hurt in AAU basketball and she rehabbed, and that's when she knew she wanted to do physical therapy. Nah, she talked about her mom having COVID, or she talked about her brother overcoming, an injury, or her brother overcoming freezing at the free throw line or something like that, and talking about mental health and physical therapy, or mental health and performance, like all that stuff. Like, yo, think outside the box, think of all the things you could do with your personal statement, and then you just start diving in. You want this to be just a paragraph 3 to 4 sentences. You kind of say where you're from, what you're passionate about, why you're passionate about it, and then a closing statement. Your closing statement is just really recapping, or it can actually be your closing statement, like closing sentence can actually be a sentence talking about what you plan to do in the future. My goal is to attend physical therapy school here, or in this state. Say if you don't know the school yet, my goal is to shadow people in my nearby high school to be able to get experience in here, to then allow me to attend school and hopefully start an internship here. Whatever your goals are, like I'm not gonna tell you like what exactly, because that's on you, um, or all the people that are listening and watching right now. But like, do some searching, do some meditation, know what you're passionate about, why you want to do this. Because again, this is not a pretty lifestyle. Yo, like, my hair looked crazy. We just got off a flight. It was raining a little bit earlier. It's dark here. I'm in a hotel. Like, I'm in a library right now. We work long hours. Sometimes we work long hours. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get places at 3 in the morning. So a lot of times we don't see family. I didn't see family on Thanksgiving. So this is not like something like, oh, I want to just work in professional sports. It's not this is not shining, and this is not we behind the scenes. Like, nobody should really be seeing us like that when we're in season. But talk about what you're passionate about, why you want to do this, what impact you want to make. For me, once I got here, even working with high school athletes, I got to see like I can make an impact with just conversations. Yeah, I'm taping your ankles. Yeah, I'm rehabbing you. Yeah, two more reps. Yeah, push through, whatever it is, whether it's a sinking using a band or whatever you're doing, activation wise, or dry needling, or manipulating, whether it's a back or whatever. Like, yeah, you do those things, but sometimes you get conversations about like, yo, my mom is going through this, or my family's going through this, or I feel this way. You get those things, and you could work in a clinic, get those conversations, but also like wherever settings you are, you're gonna be yourself, and you can kind of see like how you make an impact with what you're doing, even though it's physically, but on their mental state. So I know I'm going into a rant because I'm like very passionate about all this. Like, I love this setting. I love physical therapy and how like versatile, um, like you could do whatever you want with it. And obviously we're talking about sports specifically in this standpoint, and we're talking about personal statements. We talked about certifications. We talked about optimal plans or plans to get in professional sports or in sports physical therapy. But this is just the beginning because I know like there's a lot of other DMs I got to answer, but I do want to kind of cut this off soon because we are getting an hour and 10 minutes, like, because it's going on for a while. And I know there's so many other questions, specific questions people either have, or maybe repeats, all the good stuff. It's all good. But I do want to guess to get to this, get some more, I should say. So if you do have questions, hit me up in my DM on Instagram. My Instagram is Vanessa DPT ATC. DPT meaning for Doctor of Physical Therapy, ATC meaning athletic trainer. So Vanessa VANESSA, D for David, P for Paul, T for Tom, A for Apple, T for Tom, C for Cat. Vanessa DPT ATC, hit me up with some DMs as the schedule allows. Obviously, I'm here still working, so I'm in the middle of basketball NBA season. So I'll get to these questions, answer them as best I can. Most likely won't be an hour and change for all these videos because I mean, people, that's a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I did talk a lot. There's a lot of questions, and I want to make sure I just kind of get to the point. Eventually, make it into a PowerPoint that have some slides, have some information, basic stuff. I will still do vlogs. So vlogs of like where I'm at. So I'm in Houston right now. Went to Utah, all that good stuff. Having some vlogs. I already have some vlogs on my page. So thank you for liking and subscribing. So check out those vlogs. I have short vlogs. I have longer vlogs. I have fitness vlogs because in this lifestyle, we get little sleep. So we need to figure out too, how can we get nutrition in, how we can get fitness, and looking the part. Lookism is real. Looking the part is also another thing that gets you into these jobs. I'm being so honest. Yes, I'm a dark skinned female. I understand. I know what people have said. When I say people, meaning like social media and what is accepted and what is now becoming more accepted. Obviously, loving who you are and being confident. But I will say, fitness has opened the doors as well. So please understand, like, yeah, that's my passion, but it also opened the doors because it's like, oh, she's fit. Oh, she looks like she can run down the court to go save somebody if she needed to, or run on the field to go help somebody, or she doesn't look like she's overweight. And I'm not saying like you can't, I'm not saying not be who you are, but I'm telling you, because of this setting, and they're so big on, and I say setting, not the organization, setting like professional sports, lookism is real. They care about, do you care about your health? Because I want you to care about the player's health, but so you care about your health? Are you eating chips, or are you just eating chips once in a while? Like, are you working out so players can actually see that you take care of yourself? Like stuff like that. It's just the reality. But I actually truly love fitness, so for me it's pretty easy. It's just trying to balance like schedules and stuff like that. If I want to be honest, I got to do my job, do it well, but take the time to work out, take the time to actually plan ahead, meal prep, making sure like I have my meals set, or I have foods available for me to eat, and make choices when I don't have foods with me to make the best option. Because I do sit on the front bench. I sit right next to the head coach and the assistant coaches. I am right there on the TV screen, if I really want to be honest. So looking the part is important because it's a reflection of the organization. Is a reflection. I'm a reflection of Black people because I'm Black first and foremost, and also I'm a Black female and I'm a dark skinned female. So there's a lot of all of these different connotations, all this stuff that people could think of, like when it comes to Black females, and it's like, yeah, fitness is important because I actually do care about fitness. Like it's not just a facade; it's straight up real. I'm real about that. And I love myself. I love myself, so I'm gonna do the best I can. Yeah, maybe consider overweight, whatever, but I'm gonna make sure I'm healthy though. Healthy meaning like my clothes are fitting to where it needs to be. I'm gonna take my time and do the best I can to how I present myself, and I'm gonna make sure my social media is professional. Yes, I have personal things I want to do, like fitness and food and all that good stuff. But I'm gonna make sure, like, if somebody looks at my page, it's like, yo, she's not out here with a G-string and showing her ass. Like, yeah, I said the A word. Sorry, YouTube. Like I just want to make sure like I present myself in a way that it's like, yeah, this is who I am. So I'm not gonna lie about who I am, but I could also be professional. Don't be scared to hire me because you're not gonna worry about me, you know, wearing a thong on YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah, you'll see me wearing fitness clothes or my fitness bikini because I do bodybuilding. But you're not gonna see me do seductive stuff. So please do not be afraid. And I say this, and I'll end off with that. I say this because I have been in a lot of interviews on the other end, interviewing people, and some people have looked at this applicants, and not just one applicant, their social media, because they found them. I don't know how they found them, because I'm like, yo, like, I don't be searching like that. But some people be finding these people on social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, anything, and they see what these people are, they see what you guys are wearing. So obviously, do what works for you, because know that things may come down to what you look like on social media. It sounds so crazy. I know we talked about appearance and lookism, but yeah, what you wear can influence whether you go to the next stage or not. And it did for 3 of these people. So be aware of that. Love y'all. We're gonna end there because I'm hour and 15. So talk to you guys later. And thank you for liking and subscribing. See you guys in a new one.